Welcome to the new video seminary. Here is Dr. Hoffman. Subscribe and give me likes. Let's start now. We have to distinguish between accounting profit and economic profit. In the accounting, you just take total revenues minus explicit costs, and you will get the accounting profit, normally a year. In the economics, we need a little bit more. We take the accounting profit is the part TR, total revenues minus explicit costs, and then we also subtract implicit costs. So if we take at first explicit costs, they are out-of-pocket costs for a firm, for example, payments for wages and salaries, rent or materials. On the other hand, implicit costs are a specific type of opportunity cost, the cost of resources already owned by the firm that could have been put to some other use. For example, an entrepreneur who owns a business could use his or her labor to earn income at a job. So we have to subtract implicit costs from accounting profit to get economic profit. And if we use TR as said, it's total revenues. Let's go to assumption of maximizing economic profit. Of course, every company in microeconomic theory wants to maximize economic profit, similarly to consumer who wants to maximize his or her utility. We are in the maximum if the derivation of profit function is 0, and if profit is given like total revenues minus total costs, then also the derivation of total revenues minus the derivation of total cost should be 0. And we can express it like for TR derivative, it's MR, marginal revenues, and for TC derivative, it's MC, so marginal costs. If I subtract marginal costs from marginal revenue, it should be 0. I can also say that marginal revenues should be equal to marginal cost. The total revenues could be calculated as price times quantity. TR is P times Q. Marginal revenues are given as a derivative of total revenues over quantity. It means the derivative according to Q. Average revenues are given like a fraction, where in numerator we have total revenues and denominator we have quantity, TR over Q. So we can also write price times quantity over Q. Simplified, it's just P. So average revenues equal to P in perfect competition. And what's this P? This different one from Greek alphabet, right? And this is the profit mark. Profit is given like total revenues minus total costs, which is price times quantity minus total cost. Prerequisites of perfect competition. At first, we have a large number of market players in the market, and none of them can influence the market price of the product. The second prerequisite or condition for perfect competition is that the companies and group offer a homogeneous product. Homogeneous means that the products from the companies, when we compare them, are exactly the same. The third condition: all market participants are perfectly informed about prices and quantities exchanged on the market. So the level of information is equal for each one in the market. There is nothing hidden and they can operate in the free market well. In the fourth condition, it says companies are free to enter and leave the market. In the long run, there are no barriers to entry. In the short run, there are, of course, slight barriers to entry. We will speak about it later. And in the fifth point, last prerequisite for perfect competition is that there is no risk of insufficient sales. It means that the company will sell as much as it will to be profitable. Nothing stays in stock. They sell all production at market price. If even one of the conditions is not met, the market is not perfectly competitive. We can translate it like if one of them is not met, then the market is incompetitive or imperfectly competitive. Let's go to behavior of a perfectly competitive company. So we know that the market price is given in this market, so it's fixed, doesn't change with the volume of production of the company. It's an important fact. We can also say when the price is given, it is exogenous. The company is a price recipient because it doesn't create price, it doesn't influence the amount of price, just the amount of product. And also there is no player in the market which could influence the price for just its own prospect. And the last condition, market demand is perfectly price elastic, so the company will sell any amount of the product, as we said before. In perfectly competitive company, you can have the two situations. On the left, you can see the graph for short run, short period of time. On the right, you can see the graph for a long period of time, so long run. In a short run, if the average cost is above the average revenue, the firm makes a loss. It's shown in the red. The loss is equal to the red shaded area. In this case, the firm will continue to produce only if it's able to cover its variable costs. If the average cost is below the average revenue, the firm earns supernormal profits. You can see it in the purple shadowed area. In the last situation, where AC, average cost, meet the marginal revenues, average revenues, price, and also demand given by this green line, then there is no profit and there is no loss. We can call this situation zero profit. There is no area shaded because it's just the line. Let's explain the abbreviations. AC stands for average cost. MR stands for marginal revenues, which equal to average revenues, AR, which equal to price, P, which equal to demand. In a perfectly competitive company in a short run. Q is quantity and P is price. The asterisk is the optimum for quantity, given by the intersection of MC curve, marginal cost, with the price line, with marginal revenues, average revenues, and price line. The graph on the right for a long period of time shows that again the price line stands also for marginal revenues, MR, average revenues, AR, and demand. What's different? We have just one AC curve for average cost in blue, and the shadow curve is marginal costs. When they intersect, we again have Q asterisk, the optimum quantity of the production of the firm, and when it meets the P line, we have also the price, market price. Given by the definition of economic profits, we can easily see why in perfect competition they must always equal zero in long run. Profit is always zero. Suppose there are two industries in the economy and that firms in industry A are earning economic profits. By definitions, firms in industry A are earning a return greater than the return available in industry B. That means that firms in industry B are earning less than they could in industry A. Firms in industry B are experiencing economic losses. Given easy entry and exit, some firms in industry B will leave it and enter industry A to earn the greater profits available there. As they do so, the supply curve in industry B will shift to the left, increasing prices and profits there. As former industry B firms enter industry A, the supply curve in industry A will shift to the right, lowering profits in A. So the process of firms leaving industry B and entering A will continue until firms in both industries are earning zero economic profit. That suggests an important long-run result. Economic profits in a system of perfectly competitive markets will, in the long run, be driven to zero in all industries. Let's explain the differences between perfect competition on the left and imperfect competition on the right graphically. You already know this graph where the company determines only the volume of production. There is optimum quantity of the product where the where the MC line meets the price line of marginal revenues, average revenues, price, and demand. In this point, we get the optimum quantity. When the MC line on the right in imperfect competition meets the marginal revenues line, is again the optimum in imperfect competition, but the difference is that in imperfect competition we have average revenues separately from marginal revenues. They are not anymore on any price line. The slope is negative, so they are diminishing, and marginal revenues are diminishing faster than average revenues, which is logical from their definition because marginal revenues are given as a first derivative of total revenues according to Q, and average revenues is just the fraction total revenues over Q, which is always with a smaller slope. And let's add that on the left, in perfect competition, the company determines only the volume of production, whereas on the right, in imperfect competition, the company determines both the volume of production and the price. Let's speak about the basic market structures. We will compare perfect competition with imperfect competition, monopolistic, oligopoly, and monopoly. In the first criterion, we have pricing. Perfect competition, the company is just a recipient of the price, which is felt as an exogenous value. By monopolistic competition, pricing is different. By all of imperfect competition forms, monopolistic competition, oligopoly and monopoly, the company is price creator. Other criterion, number of companies. In perfect competition, we have a large number of companies on the market, similarly to monopolistic competition. But in oligopoly case, we have a very small number of larger companies. And in monopoly, we have one very large companies. Third criterion, long-term economic profit is zero in perfect competition, so it is in monopolistic competition. There may exist long-term economic profit in oligopoly case, and in monopoly imperfect competition there always exists a long-term economic profit. By the product, perfect competition, there it's the product homogeneous, so the large number of companies in one industry create the homogeneous production. It means that the products are completely the same. Similarly to oligopoly, the product there is homogeneous or slightly heterogeneous, so it means the products are close substitutes. In monopolistic competition case, the production is differentiated and they are also close substitutes. In monopoly, there's no close substitute on the market that gives the company the strength. Market awareness in perfect competition is perfect. In monopolistic competition, just good. Oligopoly is marked by mutual reaction to changes in price and quantity of competing companies. And monopoly covers all market demand, so is well informed about whole market prices and quantities. There are mainly barriers from the law side. A risk of insufficient sales is very large in monopolistic and oligopoly forms of market structures. In perfect competition and in monopoly, there is no risk of insufficient sales. It means they sell everything what they need to sell. Market examples for perfect competition, we can speak about a wheat or rice market. Generally about food like pizza or other commodities like clothes market, we can speak by monopolistic competition. Very close to oligopoly imperfect competition form is mobile phones or cars market. And a very good example of monopoly is electricity market or gas market. The cost function of a company operating in conditions of perfect competition in the product market in long run is given like TC equals to Q to the 3 minus 10Q squared plus 40Q. At first, in A point, we are asked what quantity of the product is the most advantageous for the company to offer. We know in the long run the company's profit is always zero. At the point of optimum where marginal revenues meet the marginal cost, the average costs reach their minimum. So I can say that the derivative of average cost according to Q should be 0. We are looking for what Q are AC in the minimum. For what Q are AC in the minimum. AC is given like total cost over Q, over quantity of the product. We know total cost was given the first derivative according to Q, the fraction when we divide this through Q gives us Q squared minus 10Q plus 40. This is average cost. Again, in the optimum, MC equals to MR, so the marginal costs are the same like marginal revenues, and marginal cost is given by this expression. That's the derivative of average cost according to Q should be 2Q minus 10. That's the derivative of this expression of AC according to Q. And it should be 0 in the optimum. If you write it like 2Q minus 10 should be 0, then we easily get the Q, which is 5. That's the optimum quantity, and we can write it in our graphical solution. In B point, we are asked at what price will the company sell the product. You know that it will sell the product there where the price is in the AC curve minimum, where the AC curve meets the price level. We know the AC expression was Q squared minus 10Q plus 40. So we just supply the point from A, where Q was 5, in this expression, and we get 5 squared minus 10 times 5 plus 40, which is 15. So the price written also in the graphical solution for this market is 15. And in the last C point, we are asked what will be the economic profit of the company. So again, the optimum condition where marginal returns meet marginal cost is given. That's why we know in the long run we always have 0 profit. So the profit is 0. Here we are asked to identify the period when we know the cost function of a company operating in conditions of perfect competition in the product market, which is TC equals to 5Q squared minus 20Q plus 4. We know that from this TC expression we can divide the first part, 5Q squared minus 20Q, which is variable cost, cost which changes with the Q, the quantity of production, and the plus 4 is given as a constant. We can call it fixed cost, and this appears only in short run. In the long run there is just variable cost. So the answer for A is what period it is. It is a short run, it's a short period of time. B question: what is the offered quantity of production if the price P is 60 and the company maximizes its profit? So we know companies maximizing the profit there where marginal revenues are meeting the curve of marginal cost. That's this point in the graph. And it also meets the P line because here it is the same like marginal revenues line. It comes from theory. MC, marginal cost, is the derivative of total cost, which we know from the first line it was given, according to Q. So let's derive this expression according to Q, and we get 10Q minus 20. I also wrote here how you do the first derivative, so that you know how to work with exponents and follow the rules of derivatives. If I take this expression and use the price given in B, price 60, I make this equation 10Q minus 20 equals to 60. From here 80 is 10Q and Q is 8. So I wrote Q equals 8 in my graphical solution. That's the optimum point coordinate. The other coordinate P60 was given. In C, I am asked what are the average costs of a company. Average cost, as we know, is the fraction where in the numerator are total costs, in the denominator quantity of production Q. Total cost was given by this expression 5Q squared minus 20Q plus 4. If I divide it through Q, I will get 5Q minus 20 plus 4 over Q. Or I can already use my Q, and you know it's 8, and calculate it like 5 times 8 squared minus 20 times 8 plus 4 over 8, which is 164 over 8, where the 164 is total cost for the quantity 8 pieces of the product, or 8 other units, liters and so on, which equals together 20.5, and that's average cost. In the D point, there is the last question. What is the profit of the company? Profit is given like total revenues minus total costs. Total revenues could be written like P times Q, price times quantity, total cost TC. If I do the subtraction of TC from this P times Q, I will get price 60 times 8, quantity, minus, which is 480, minus total cost, which is 164. We calculated it here before in the denominator. 164 was the TC. And now profit is given like 480 minus 164, which is 316. In this example, we know the company is in monopolistic competition, and it has the following function of total revenues. TR equals 72Q minus 4Q squared. And the function of total costs, TC, equals 40 plus 2Q squared. In a question, we are asked what amount of production will the company offer if it maximizes profit. You already know that we are maximizing profit when MR equals MC, marginal revenues equal marginal cost. Marginal revenue is given by the derivative of TR, total revenues, over Q. It means that the given expression 72Q minus 4Q squared should be derived according to Q, and it is 72 minus 8Q. Then I also need marginal cost. That's the derivative of total cost according to Q, 40 plus 2Q squared derivative according to Q is just 4Q. These two expressions for MR 72 minus 8Q and for MC 4Q should equal to each other. From here I have a nice equation with one single Q, and I can say that Q is 72/12, which is 6. And I got the optimum size of the product. Optimum amount of the product is 6 units of production. There where again MC curve meets the MR curve in this point, which is 6. B question asks me, what will be the price of the product? So we know optimum quantity is 6, price is searched for, and you also know that price should be the same like average revenue, which we calculate like total revenue over Q. Total revenue is given with the expression 72Q minus 4Q squared. I supply for Q this optimum quantity 6 and calculate that 72 times 6 minus 4 times 6 squared is 288. And now I can divide this expression to get average revenue. So total revenue over Q, total revenue 288 over Q6 is 48. With this I don't have only average revenue, but as you know from the theory, I also got the price. So the price of the product will be 48. In the C point, we are asked what will be the price of the product and the amount of production offered if the company maximizes revenue. For maximizing revenue, the total revenue derivative should be 0. Total revenue derivative is from 72Q minus 4Q squared according to Q 72 minus 8Q, and this should be 0. From here you get the quantity 9. And we can also calculate the total revenue for this position 9. It is 72Q minus 4Q squared with a when we supply here instead of Q just 9, we get 72 times 9 minus 4 times 9 squared. It is 324. So this is the total revenue for quantity 9. You know that price equals to average revenue from theory. Average revenue is given like total revenue over Q. We know total revenue for the point 9 is 324. We know quantity 9. If we divide these numbers, we get 36 as the price in that point. What will the company's profit be like if it maximizes profits, and what it will be like if it maximizes revenues? I will use my numbers. We know that for maximizing profit, the quantity is 6, and that the profit is total revenues TR minus TC. Total revenues were 288 for quantity 6. Total cost is given like 40 plus 2Q squared. For Q6, we can say it is 40 plus 2 times 6 squared, which is 112. From here, profit equals 288 minus 112, which is 176. if the company maximizes profits. If the company maximizes revenues, we use total revenues 324, which were calculated in C part. And because profit is given as total revenues minus total cost, we also have to supply for total cost 40 plus 2q squared to q9, which was given in the C part. We get total cost 40 plus 2 times 9 squared, which is 202. From here, profit equals to total revenues 324 minus total cost 202. And it is together profit 122 if the company maximizes revenues. On the right in the graph, on the axis B, you see a series of prices. So let's explain. The price with the index B is 48, and it was calculated in the B point as the price of the product when the company maximizes profit. It's higher than the price from C point 36 when the company maximizes revenue. And also there are the points 22.4 and 18.7. The 22.4 reflects the situation where the company maximizes revenues. So I used the darker yellow color, and we calculated AC, average cost, equals TC over Q. TC was given, total cost, 40 plus 2Q squared. And when I divide it by Q, I got 40 over Q plus 2Q. For the point where quantity is 9, because in this point the company maximizes revenues, we got 40 over 9 plus 2 times 9, which is 4.4 plus 18. It means 22.4. And the other point, 18.7 on p-axis, when company maximizes profit, then we again have AC equals TC over Q, that stays the same, but 4.Q is 6. I get 40 over 6 plus 2 times 6, which is 6.7 plus 12, together 18.7. The point QA, 6, is the quantity when company maximizes profit. And by quantity marked as QC, the company is maximizing revenues. So the company in a monopoly position estimates that the demand for its product is given by the demand function P equals 168 minus 2Q, and the total cost function is TC equals 35 plus 5Q squared. At first, in A point, we determine the quantity and price of which the monopoly maximizes profits. You know that the condition is MR equals MC. We know also that the total revenues is given by P times Q. Price is 168 minus 2Q. That's the quotient of demand which was given. And the quantity is that what we are searching for. 168Q minus 2Q squared then are the total revenues. Now we have to find marginal revenues. It's derivative of total revenues according to Q. So it's the derivative of P times Q according to Q. P times Q is 168 minus 2Q times Q, and we calculated that it is 168Q minus 2Q squared over Q, which is 168 minus 4Q. This is the derivative of this expression. Now we got the marginal revenues. We also need the marginal cost, because marginal revenues should be the same as marginal cost. Marginal cost is calculated like derivative of total cost over Q. Total cost was given like 35 plus 5Q squared. According to Q, its derivation is 10 times Q. If MR equals to MC, we can write MC is 10Q and MR is 168 minus 4Q. Then 168 minus 4Q should be 10Q. From here, Q is 168 fourteenths, which is 12. And if I know Q, 12, I can also calculate price, because I got the demand function 168 minus 2Q. 4Q 12, it's 168 minus 2 times 12, which is 144. In B, we are asked how big will the total profit of the monopoly producer be. Profit is given like total revenues minus total costs. Total revenues are given like price times quantity, and we know both of them, 144 for price and 12 for quantity. If we multiply them, we get 1728 as total revenues. We also, for profit calculation, need the total cost, which is 35 plus 5Q squared, which was given as a function. For Q, which was 12, we calculate this like 35 plus 5 times 12 squared, which is 755. Profit is then the subtraction of these two numbers, 1728 minus 755 equals to 973. This is the profit. In C part, we are asked to determine the quantity and price at which the monopoly maximizes sales. We know that company maximizes sales if marginal revenues equal 0. Marginal revenues were calculated in previous point as 168 minus 4Q. If I set it equal to 0, I get Q as 168 fourths, which is 42. Quantity 42 is the quantity at which the monopoly maximizes sales or revenues. Price, given by the expression 168 minus 2Q for this 42, is 168 minus 2 times 42, which is 84. And the last point, how big will the total sales of the monopoly producer be? Or total revenues, let's say. Total revenues are P times Q. We got price 84, quantity 42. When we multiply them, we get 3,528, which is the answer to the question. That is the total revenues of the monopoly producer, which is maximizing its revenues. The market demand curve for passenger cars offered in a given country is given by the relation PT is 21 minus 2QT. The part of market demand belonging to the dominant company is expressed by the relationship PDF is 12 minus QDF. The amount of costs of the dominant company is average cost equals to marginal cost equals to 6, and all companies in the industry maximize overall profits. You should answer questions A. The volume of production offered by the dominant company. Determine this volume of production. B. Determine the price at which the dominant company sells. C. Determine the volume of production that will offer a competitive edge. And D. The price at which small businesses will sell. Explain why they will sell at that price. And also solve these tasks graphically and compare the achieved results. So the QDF is for the dominant company. Quantity for dominant company is that's what we are searching for. Marginal revenues in optimum equal to marginal cost. Marginal cost was given as 6 euros. Total revenues are calculated as price times quantity. Price for the dominant company is given 12 minus QDF. Then we just need to calculate price 12 minus Q times Q from the TR expression. It means 12Q minus Q squared is total revenues. Marginal revenues is the first derivative of TR according to Q, which is from here 12 minus 2Q. When you use that this marginal revenue 12 minus 2Q on the left equals to marginal cost, which was given as 6 on the right, you can easily calculate the Q. QDF for the dominant company is then 6 halves, which is 3. In question B, you are asked about the price at which the dominant company sells. We know that the price is 12 minus QDF. Here 12 minus 3. So it is 9 euros. Whereas in A the QDF was 3 pieces of the product. In question C, you are asked to determine the volume of production that will offer a competitive edge. That's then price for KL. KL is from Czech expression for competitive edge, konkurenční lem, KL. It's the price, the same as the price of the dominant company, and is the same as the market price. That is what we know from the theory, so I wrote it like PKL equals PDF equals PT. We already know that PDF is 9, and if you know that's the same like PT, you have the price for market 9 also. 9 equals 21 minus 2Q, and from here QT is 6. We know that quantity on the market is the sum of quantity given by dominant company, QDF, plus quantity on the competitive edge, QKL. So QT, the quantity of the market, is calculated as 6. QDF was calculated, quantity of dominant company, as 3, and we just search for QKL, which is what we have to add to 3 so that we get 6 is 3. QKL, the quantity of the competitive edge, is 3. The last D question: determine the price of which small businesses will sell, explain why they will sell at that price, and also solve these tasks graphically and compare the achieved results. We know from the theory that, as said before, price of competitive edge is the same like price of the dominant company is the same like the price of the market. We can read it also like the dominant company is giving the price and the other smaller companies have to follow this price. We know this price was 9, price of the whole industry given by the dominant company. That's why in the graph the 9. We calculated the respecting 3Q for dominant company and 6 for the smaller companies. There, the difference between them is 3. 6 minus 3, easy to calculate, is the size of so-called competitive edge. The bright green line is the demand, the production of the dominant company. And the darker green line is the marginal revenues line of the dominant company. The J curve in blue is the marginal cost curve of dominant company, and the gray line on the right is the market demand of the industry, DT.
At the end, there is just to say subscribe and give me likes. See you soon!